Hello, and welcome to an Elder Scrolls thing. Perhaps you're new to the series, or perhaps you've been around for a while, but if you've clicked on this video, you've probably asked at one point or another, what is this Skooma stuff everyone is talking about anyway? Well, I'm here to do my best to answer that question by digging into the lore for the next however long this video ends up being, and I'll sprinkle some other cool lore stuff in there to boot. But before we dig right into it, I want to give a quick shout out to my members, currently on screen. These folks go above and beyond to support the channel, and I'm very grateful to them. Being a member is never required, but always appreciated. Thank you. If we are to know what Skooma is, we must first know what Skooma isn't. We have to talk about where it comes from, and where it comes from is ultimately the sugarcane farms of the Tenmar Forest in southern Elsewhere, homeland of the Khajiit. Moon sugarcane is a type of sugarcane, what else, endemic to southern Elsewhere that has been actively cultivated by the Khajiit for several hundred years. The Khajiit believe that moon sugar is a gift from their gods, actually small portions of their gods' eternal souls, and is crystallized moonlight that has been captured in the sea and brought to the sugarcane farms along the shore by the tides. From there, the sugar is extracted and processed into an edible form that is used in a wide range of different applications. In this processed state, moon sugar is a mass of grainy powdered crystals and appears to glow from within when light hits it. The Pocket Guide to the Empire, 1st edition, describes moon sugar being used as a general seasoning for dishes, an alchemical ingredient, a source of religious communion with the gods, which are the phases of Nirn's twin moons, Masser and Secunda, and also as a simple addictive drug, with all the accordant dangers such things bring. Moon sugar is said to send the Khajiit into fits of ecstasy and abandon, followed by a lethargy that lasts for days, and there's some evidence that frequent consumption can rot the teeth. These deleterious effects hit the other races much harder, possibly due to a tolerance that Khajiit build up over years of relatively low-level exposure through their diet, as it's widely used as a spice in nearly every dish in Elsewhere cuisine. This spiking of local foods is so ubiquitous that the Pocket Guide cautions travelers to avoid native food entirely, lest they fall victim to moon sugar's more detrimental effects. You know what? It's time for this video's tangent. When I was first reading about this recommendation for foreigners to avoid locally prepared foods while in Elsewhere, I thought it sounded like a really cool potential mechanic, where the player has to worry about their sugar toxicity level and could suffer ill effects if they consumed too much, with Khajiit players having a considerable resistance to it. This could even be used to directly counter the perpetual quote-unquote problem of players pausing the game during combat and horking down 500 wheels of cheese or whatever in an instant to regain their health. But then, I came back to reality. Knowing Bethesda, they'd probably have the laws against moon sugar suddenly come into effective enforcement, like how mages accepted levitation being illegal and actually stopped levitating. Even established magical criminals like necromancers, who still exist for the record. And by the way, moon sugar is an illicit good throughout the Empire, though smuggling of both moon sugar and skooma is still extremely widespread, with both products available throughout the Empire with relatively little effort on the part of prospective buyers. So that's what the lore says about the production of moon sugar, but what does it actually do when we consume it? Well, that depends on the game, of course. Morrowind is the first game in the series where moon sugar exists as an item. Prior to Morrowind, it only existed as a mention in the Pocket Guide, and the Morrowind iteration hews quite closely to the details presented in those early lore mentions. It has 4 alchemical effects, depending what ingredients you mix it with. 1 positive, 1 neutral, and 2 of them negative. Obviously, Fortify Speed makes its first appearance here, and this is what players mostly remember about moon sugar, at least mechanically. This, clearly, represents the euphoria and vigor described as following acute exposure, that is, the actual high of the drug. The neutral effect, as I called it, is Dispel, which clears ongoing status effects. Dispel is non-discriminatory. It will clear away your buffs just as easily as the poison that threatens to kill you. I'm honestly not sure what this is meant to represent. Possibly another aspect of euphoria, like the weights of the world lifting off your shoulders and making you feel better, I guess. I don't know. Tell me your theories in the comments. But the two negative effects are Drain Endurance and Drain Luck, which are clearly meant to represent the canonical days of lethargic hangover that follow the acute effects. Fortunately for us, due to the mechanics of Morrowind, only the first effect takes effect when moon sugar is eaten straight, so that boost to speed is all we get from it as players. In Oblivion, well, moon sugar doesn't exist in Oblivion, but we'll be back to talk about it in a minute when we get to Skooma. No, I haven't forgotten that it's Skooma in the title of this video and not moon sugar. But instead of just skipping along to moon sugar's representation in Skyrim, I want to share some cool lore stuff I found. It's fairly common knowledge, at least among us nerds, that the different shapes that Khajiit have had in each game are actually canon. But I don't feel like the way this works is well understood by a large proportion of players. The Pocket Guide to the Empire, despite the clear prejudice it displays, was an invaluable asset when researching this video, and it lays out the foundation for how Khajiit first docks actually work. The shape that a Khajiit takes is determined by the dual phases of Maser and Secunda, and while there's a wide range of first docks, I want to call attention to a very unique and rare alignment of the moons, which gives rise to a very special Khajiit called a main. There is only one main at a time, though it's unclear if this is due to divine design or if each main, or his attendants, merely seeks out and eliminates potential rivals before they can come to threaten his power. What is definitely true is that the Khajiit believe that not only is there only one main at any given time, but there is only one main who is continually reincarnated, Dalai Lama style. Historically, Khajiit would shave their manes in deference to the main, braiding this hair together and presenting these braids to the main, who would then incorporate them into his own mane or headdress, thereby symbolically carrying all Khajiit with him. And just look at this guy. How wild would that be to see in game? I imagine him sunk deep in a throne, surrounded by attendants and guards and swirling moon sugar smoke. Truly a cool image. These days, the main only wears the hair of his tribe and guard, which is still several hundred individuals. But enough about that. Onward to moon sugar in Skyrim. In Skyrim, there's a few interesting things about moon sugar. Though certainly stigmatized, moon sugar is seemingly openly traded by legitimate merchants. The Khajiit traders are well known for always having the stuff, but also established alchemists, for whom it's categorized as an uncommon ingredient, which gives them a 15% chance of carrying 1 to 5 pieces of moon sugar. Not only is its legal status seemingly quite different, but so are the effects. In Skyrim, moon sugar's effects are weakness to fire, resist frost, restore magicka, and regenerate magicka. I could not tell you how any of those are the descendants of the Morrowind effects. Of course, the Morrowind effects don't exist anymore, so I guess they just came up with something. By the way, and yes, this is a super clunky transition because I couldn't think of a better way to do it, I made a video about Caius Casades, a major character from Morrowind known in part for his sweet tooth. It talks about the cultural role and general availability of moon sugar in Vardenfell at the time, so that might be something you're interested in. It'll be linked at the end of the video and in the description. But this video isn't called What is Moon Sugar? You're here for the skooma. Skooma is an hallucinogenic derived from refining moon sugar into a liquid form, which the Pocket Guide to the Empire describes as being smoked through water pipes by the more pathetic Khajiit, though it can also be drank without smoking it. Which is really curious. Skooma has no one-to-one parallel in any real-life drug, but typically, if you have to burn or otherwise heat something up, that heating serves some kind of purpose. In this case, it seems that smoking skooma is merely a stylistic choice, entirely up to the user's preference. In any case, the Pocket Guide claims that skooma addicts users for life, without cure, locking them into a debilitating state of constant fluctuation between euphoria and lethargy. Those effects are probably slower to build up than a mere single use, but it's well documented and plainly seen in the games that skooma is really not good for people. Addicts eventually suffer seemingly permanent confusion and general mental deterioration, and withdrawal can send users into violent fits of rage. As for making it, we're really not sure. We know it's a refined form of moon sugar, likely through some kind of alchemical process, but we've never been able to do it ourselves, nor do any of the games contain a written recipe or description of the process. In fact, in Morrowind, there are 2 drain attribute effects on skooma, which the player can't even do in their own potions. Pedantic little self-correction. Yeah, you weren't expecting that phrase to make a comeback, were you? Wait a minute, how long ago did I use that? Oh, it was the Stealth Archer video. Anyway, pedantic self-correction. Kinda. This is specifically true of the vanilla game. The very popular Morrowind code patch changes this behavior, so you may remember this mechanic differently, and that mod would be why. There's a ton of this kind of thing in these games. It's a real headache when trying to get to the truth of a mechanic, let me tell you. But even though we can't make it, what does this evil concoction do? As before, it differs with each game. In Morrowind, downing a bottle of skooma will grant the player 20 points each of strength and speed, but also lower your endurance and agility by 20 points, all for 60 seconds. For melee characters, this is a significant buff for a pretty generous length of time, making skooma a totally viable combat potion. Since players aren't subject to any long-lasting detrimental effects or addiction in any capacity, the temporary reduction in intelligence and agility is pretty limited. In Oblivion, the effects of skooma are very similar to what they were in Morrowind, with speed and strength getting boosted by 60 points, though only for 20 seconds, and agility being drained by 60 points for 20 seconds. Where Oblivion's skooma differs is that it permanently damages your intelligence, though only by 2 points each time, and this damage can be healed with a restore intelligence effect, though melee-focused characters can broadly ignore this damage. Oblivion, in all its absurdity, probably paints the most grim picture of the effects of addiction. I mean, this guy is suffering so bad I thought it was a glitch at first, though Oblivion is also just kinda like that. You can never really tell if anything is intentional or not. And finally, in Skyrim, skooma has its most outrageous iteration yet. It restores 25 points of stamina. That's it. Restoring stamina is still of use to melee characters, technically, but there are no ill effects. It doesn't increase your melee damage, it doesn't increase your speed. It doesn't even have a blur effect to play lip service to some vague concept of a high. Basically, it's been reduced to a stamina potion that's barely better than the base level of those, and it's barely even worth any gold. It's literally just vendor trash in Skyrim, so that's disappointing. But now you know what skooma is, how it's made, where it originates from, the tenuous legal position of it, and the mechanical in-game effects of both skooma and moon sugar in all 2.5 games that they're present in. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching, and be sure to check out the comments. There's a lot of cool lore about the Khajiit and the geopolitics of the Tamrielic drug trade that I uncovered during the course of making this, and I'm sure the comments will be full of elaboration on the details that I didn't include in the video. There's also a link to my Blue Sky and a Discord down there if you are so inclined. There's all kinds of stuff in the Discord. Like, I shared that on April 18th of 1930, the BBC Radio News Bulletin from London stated, "Good evening. Today is Good Friday. There is no news." The rest of the bulletin's 15-minute time slot was filled with piano music. That was not, for the record, true. That was the same day as a major raid by Indian independence fighters against an armory in British India, now known as Bangladesh. Just gonna, let that one sit in the open, I guess. It's much cozier to think that there was actually nothing newsworthy, isn't it? But at the end of the day, thank you very much for stopping by and lending me your ear. Have a happy 420, and, as always, have a great one.